Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan. Excited to dive into this today. We're going to be reviewing this whiskey. This is really interesting. So this is going to be, it's called Mazed and Confused. This is from Dancing Goat Distillery. They're in Wisconsin. And I've had some of their stuff before. I had a single barrel of their high rye mash bill bourbon once it was like a real sleeper bottle that I did not have high expectations for, and then it just really impressed me. I thought it had a great flavor profile. So I'm rolling the dice on Dancing Goat for a second time, and this time it's something that's a little bit adventurous. So this is 9-year-old corn whiskey, right? 9-year-old corn whiskey finished in cherry bitters barrels. Like, what? So, yeah, they're taking a risk here on this one. And on the back of the bottle, it has this quote. It says, "The older you get, the more rules they're going to try to get you to follow." And they're saying, nah, we're not going to do that. So we're going to crack this open. We're going to see if this is like a gimmick or if this is actually pretty good. A couple things real quick before we get into that. First and foremost, if you want to join our Discord, we get to chat whiskey there, channel updates there, share our thoughts and tasting notes on various whiskeys that we are having, as individuals and sharing those with each other. If you want to get in on our Discord group, the link to that is in the description. Also in the description is a link to our Patreon page where you can pledge to help fund bottles that we get to review here on the channel and support the channel in that way too, so I can keep doing stuff like this, sort of justify the time off of work to do this stuff. So big shout out to my Patreon supporters. Last thing, if you enjoy these videos, hey, let me know by just leaving a like on the video or subscribing for additional whiskey content. That helps me know that it's hitting right. It also helps get the videos circulating out there per the algorithm on YouTube. Says, hey, people are liking this video, maybe we'll get it in front of more people. All right, let's talk Dancing Goat. Oh, I should get a Glencairn. Okay, so this is Indiana-sourced corn whiskey. Indiana knows a thing or two about corn. I should know. I'm from there. I'm actually originally from north side of Indianapolis. Grew up going to Colts games, but I was just on the edge of the rural parts of Indiana, there in central Indiana, so I had a lot of friends who were farmers. In fact, some of my first jobs were actually working on farms, spreading manure, things like that. I know it's a really appetizing thing to say in a whiskey review, talk about manure. But I spent a lot of time on farms as a kid, even though I was a city kid. We'd take quads down the trails, the rows in between stuff, and the dogs would chase after us. It was good fun. Nice little delicate pop. Alrighty, let's pour this. I'm wondering if this is just going to taste like mellow corn with a weird finish to it. A $20 bottle of mellow corn. Oh, I should mention, this was a $65 bottle on Shared Pour. So I think that's, if I remember correctly, that's what I paid for this. Was $65 on Shared Pour. This is 58.2% ABV. It's 116.4. Here we go. So 9 years old on this corn whiskey. So corn whiskey, while I let that open up a little bit, corn whiskey, what makes it corn whiskey? So the standards of identity for corn whiskey are a little bit different than, your bourbon, rye, scotch, whatever it may be. So your standards of identity are a little bit different here. Most of the things that we cover on the channel, they have to follow strict rules, like they need to be aged in unused, virgin oak, charred oak barrels if they want to be called bourbon, if they want to be called a rye whiskey here in America. The rules are a little bit different for corn whiskey. It needs to be at least 80% corn in the mash bill. At least 80% of that mash bill needs to be corn. Unlike moonshine, sugar can't directly be added. You have to use a traditional mash process. Basically, it's like making corn oatmeal, in a traditional mash. You take the liquid from that mash, you put the yeast into it, you let it ferment to make beer, you distill it, and then it can be aged in a number of different ways. You can age it. Yeah, actually, you could call it corn whiskey and not put it in barrels at all. You could just serve it as is, clear, and call it corn whiskey. But this has been aged in oak barrels for 9 years. So, corn whiskey is a little bit of a risk for distillers because they think that if they call it corn whiskey, then people are going to think that it's cheap. But they didn't cut those corners. You can call it corn whiskey, call it the same product, and have a lot less quality. But these guys, they aged it for 9 years in oak barrels. So they did not cut those corners. And the nose is so different than what we're used to. On the nose, I get a cherry cough drop, a little bit of candy corn. It smells like an old-fashioned. You know, it smells like an old-fashioned on the nose. You get that that old-fashioned cherry in there with the bitters, like your Angostura bitters, and definitely get that that clove, that note of like the whole clove, you know, that you get in your Angostura bitters as well on the nose. That's wildly different than most things that we try here. All right, let's give it a shot. I mean, it just tastes like a sweet old-fashioned. It tastes like an old-fashioned that they forgot to put ice in. That's what it tastes like. It tastes like an old-fashioned. They forgot to put the ice in it. They didn't use a rye whiskey in it. They just used a sweet bourbon. You got like cherry Mike and Ike's, stewed corn, a faint hint of cut hay, but definitely that clove coming through as well. And the finish really just hangs on just a little bit of oak and a lot of cherry. Just a little bit of oak and a lot of cherry, almost like a maraschino cherry. Like the juice from maraschino cherry in your mouth. I mean, it's not bad. It's interesting for sure. Huh. So would I take it over an old fashioned? I mean, I really like making old fashions, and I would take a well-made old fashioned over this. But it's different. I mean, it's unique. I don't know what else to say about it. It was a fun little experiment, wasn't it? Right up front, on that like fourth sip, almost got like, just for a split second, that candy corn. Well, that was different. So I think if I was going to rate that whiskey today per my scale, I would give that a 4.8. That's okay. Would I recommend it to somebody? I don't know. I mean, if you think those flavors sound good and you want to drop the coin on something like that, sure. But I'm going to be real with you. So $65 that I paid for this. You can make a good old-fashioned by spending $20 on a bottle of Rittenhouse Rye. You can make your own simple syrup with just sugar and water, diluting sugar and water. And then you can buy some Angostura bitters for $10 for a whole bottle that you're going to get like, you know, a year's worth of use out of. And you just saved yourself 30 to 35 bucks. And now you can make old fashions to your heart's content. You know what I mean? I don't know. That was interesting. And that's about all I have to say on that. Thanks for tuning into the video today and watching. This was a little a break from the norm, a little deviation from the standard. I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. Make sure you get into our Discord. Check out the Patreon page if you're interested. Really excited. The Patreon supporters, I do have all of the samples for our tasting are bottled up and ready to go. So I've got boxes with all of our samples in them. So I just have to ship those out to you this week. That way they'll get to you in time so we can do our November 2nd virtual tasting together. Very excited about that. If that's something you want to get involved in the future, you want me to send you samples of whiskeys that we can try together, share notes, compare notes one night, then hey, check out the Patreon page because that's something that's reserved for our Patreon supporters. Just our way of sort of giving back to you guys. Really looking forward to seeing you guys with that. Hey, cheers! May you live richly and get better with age. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.